Hey everyone, it's Professor Clark, and in this lecture we are going to go over a couple of very specific prefixes that have this very specific unlimited meaning. So they're generally not used super often, but some of their meanings are very important and you will encounter them enough that you definitely want to know them. Once again, these are paired prefixes, and the first prefix in this pair is vz. And its basic form is just vz. But you might also see it as vzo, voz, vs, or vos. And it basically indicates movement upwards. So, like taking off while flying or moving upwards in some way. So this is a very specific meaning, but nonetheless one that you need to know and that you will occasionally encounter, especially for some certain set phrases that are used pretty commonly. And it comes, as you can see, in several formats. The base form is vz, or vz, and it is in this form if it is followed by a voiced consonant. For example, vzlietat, vzlietiet, or vzbiegat, vzbijat. L and B are both voiced consonants, and so we just write vz in front of them. Vzlietat, vzbiegat. However, it is vzo, we have to add an o before et. So vzaiti in the infinitive, or vzashla, for example, in the past tense. It is vsa if it is followed by a voiceless consonant. So this is one of the instances where the spelling actually changes to match the pronunciation, because remember that z is going to devoice when it's followed by a voiceless consonant. And so with this prefix, we actually change the spelling to match that pronunciation. So vschodit, to go upwards. Ch is voiceless, and so we write vs in front of it. And so that rule stays in effect, z before voiced consonants and s before voiceless consonants, but we can also insert an o in between the two, so voz or vos, in certain set phrases and archaic or religious words. And you might wonder, why do we care? Well, because these phrases and words have been preserved in the modern language, and that is where you are most likely to see and use this prefix in day-to-day speech. For example, vashod, as in vashod sonsa, means sunrise, the sun goes up. Vostok is the east. Tok is an archaic usage that means kind of the same thing as hod, so it also means going upwards. Vostok is the east, it's where the sun rises. Voskresenia, resurrection. Note the spelling, so if it's spelled iye at the end, that's resurrection. Exactly the same word, but spelled mягкий знак е, voskresenia, means Sunday, resurrection because movement upwards. Or вознесение, ascension, normally in the religious sense. And note that we have ve or s before the ka in воскресение and ve or ze before the voiced n in вознесение, ascension. So that is the prefix vz. Again, you don't use it that often in these non-set phrases, just sort of in casual speech, but with these set phrases, you're going to encounter it quite a lot, and it's useful to know what it means. The opposite of vz is sa, and it has two different meanings. The first meaning we're going to go over is the direct opposite of vz, and it's movement off of or down from. And it's normally going to be used with the preposition sa plus the genitive. For example, птичка слетела с ветки. The bird flew off the branch. When you're flying down from or off of something, you're going to use sa. When it is combined with езжать, ехать, it means to exit a highway. So съезжать, съехать is to exit a highway. I mean, it can be driving down or off of anything, but it's most commonly used to indicate exiting a highway. And one of the meanings of the word съезд is a highway exit. For example, мы съехали с шоссе means we exited the highway. Съезд has many meanings, one of them being a highway exit, FYI. And it is also used in some very common set phrases. So schodit or сойти с ума means to go crazy. And then сводить or свести с ума means to drive someone crazy. For instance, ты меня вот-вот и сведешь с ума. You are about to drive me crazy. It's kind of like you are on my last nerve. Or я сошла с ума. I went crazy. The second meaning of the prefix "se" with verbs of motion is to make a quick round trip, or to make some kind of a round trip somewhere you had planned to go. And it is only used in this sense when combined with multidirectional verbs of motion. These verbs, even though you have a prefix added to a multidirectional verb of motion, are always perfective, and they do not change their form. So, for example, jezdit remains jezdit, and we have zjezdit. Or bieget remains bieget, the stress doesn't shift, and we have zbieget. And they are often used in situations such as "Я схожу в магазин за хлебом." I'll run to the store for some bread. So this quick round trip, or some kind of a planned round trip, but often with this meaning of quickness, going somewhere and coming back quickly. So there we have the prefixes vza and sa, and we are finishing up our section on prefixed verbs of motion. Once again, if you find it overwhelming, just take them one prefix at a time, and do go through the exercises and the readings in the textbook because they can be very helpful.